Good afternoon. You're watching Mirror at 1 and I'm Tanima Biswas. Our top story. In a bid to tackle the crippling power crisis in the country, the centre today invoked Section 11 of the Electricity Act, mandating all imported coal-based projects to generate power at full capacity. The Power Minister also directed states to import coal to meet the increase in demand. The minister also asked states to ensure a seamless supply of coal to power plants through rail-cum-road mode of transport. Now, while Punjab, Gujarat are in advanced stage of finalizing tenders, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra have issued orders for importing coal. Remember, Section 11 of the Electricity Act gives government the power to ask a generating company to operate and maintain any station in accordance with its directions.
स्टोरी में जो मिरर नाउ या टाइम्स नाउ नेटवर्क के पास एक्सक्लूसिव बुलेटिन्स की कॉपी है जो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ पावर के तरफ से तमाम पावर जनरेशन कंपनी को लिखा गया था, जिसमें बहुत क्लियर इंडिकेशंस था कि आने वाले कुछ महीनों के लिए यानी पूरे पीक सीजन और मानसून के लिए आप अपने पूरे प्रोडक्शंस में जो कोल आप यूज करते हो उसका 10% आप इंपोर्ट करिए, 10% ब्लेंडिंग के लिए इंपोर्ट करिए। लेकिन इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में प्राइसेस इतने हाई हैं, यूक्रेन वॉर और तमाम दूसरे इश्यूज को लेके ट्रिपल टाइम करीब हाई है। और दूसरी तरफ जो पावर जनरेशन कंपनी है उनका जो पेमेंट है अलग अलग स्टेट्स के डिस्कॉम पे यानी जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बोर्ड है उन पे काफी अच्छा खासा बकाया है। तो जो गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर्स की कंपनी है, एनटीपीसी हो गई या तमाम दूसरे स्टेट पावर जनरेशन कंपनी होगी, वो खुल के सामने भले ना ही हो, लेकिन जितनी प्राइवेट पावर जनरेशन कंपनी है, खासकर जो इंपोर्टेड कोल बेस्ड जनरेशन कंपनी, उन्होंने कहा है कि जो पुराने पावर परचेज एग्रीमेंट के मुताबिक वो रेट को एक्सीड नहीं कर सकते। उनके पास पुराना बकाया इतना पेंडिंग है कि वो मौजूदा इस कंडीशंस में नहीं है, उनके लिए फाइनेंशियल कंडीशंस इतनी अच्छी नहीं है कि वो फिर इस पूरे कोल को इंपोर्ट कर सके, क्योंकि लिक्विडिटी क्रंच है, लिक्विडिटी क्राइसिस है।
And to discuss on this further, I'm joined by Mr. Rajiv Agarwal, who's the Secretary of the Indian Captive Power Producers Association, and also joined by Ashok Fense, who's a power expert. Coming to you first, Mr. Agarwal, because you obviously we've seen this issue also over the past few weeks actually snowballing. There are efforts being made by the states as well as the centre. But what exactly do you think is missing? Is it a situation where we're seeing, of course, there's the weather, there's nothing much that can be done about it. It's been a record-breaking summer this year. But considering the basics, what exactly do you feel is missing in terms of a government strategy to handle the crisis?
If we talk of the current situation, probably everyone is trying to do their bit, whatever is possible. And so definitely we have to get into what has gone wrong in the past or what is actually ailing the whole sector. As your reporter just now said that huge amounts of outstandings are there. And as I was reading a report, even private generating companies are not able to even import the material just because that they don't have money, they don't have the money supply. So now in such a situation, it is very difficult for any entity to even import. So that becomes first point that why Gencos are in such a bad situation. One thing is everyone knows that, okay, free power, that's one part of it. But another part which is never discussed or even never acknowledged is that what is the affordability index of coal prices for India. Now, Power Ministry has also acknowledged that initially the dollar exchange prices were the prices they were looking at. But now even they acknowledge that purchasing power parity is something which has to be looked at. It means the comparison of living standard, etc., that economist model is there. Now on that level, we find that on affordability index, Indian coal and power are almost 4 times to 6 times or 8 times costlier. Now, definitely, when this is the scenario, the power which is purchased by discoms is costly, so they cannot do much. Definitely, one has to take a foot down. No free power. One has to take a foot down. That inefficiency cost, which have been built up in the system, which includes huge amount of tax, which includes inefficiencies of Coal India, where like a private entity is able to mine the coal at say 350 to 550 rupees per ton at the pit head. Coal India, 2 years back, before pandemic, they said that their cost is 1150. Now they say their cost is 1300. And they are also getting the services of private sector where MDO contracts are in the same range. So naturally, this shows that there has to be uh, at the national level, there has to be a clear discussion that where exactly we want to move. Everyone says that yes, we need coal. Coal is cheap power source for India, definitely with reference to imported oil, it is cheaper. But within the sector, when we actually compare, we have made it so costly in last so many decades, and that story is continuing. So one has to take care of that. Then only something can be done on the long-term basis. Otherwise, 2014, some similar power crisis happened. 2017, a private power crisis happened, and now 2021, the power crisis has started. Now,
Right.
if we go to the midterm level, we find that in 2020, in April, all India average stocks of coal was almost 30 days, say 28.5 days. Whereas last year, that inventory had been reduced to the level of around 14.8 or 15 days.
Mr. Agarwal, if I can bring in some of the other speakers also in this. Mr. Pense, if I can just pick up what Mr. Agarwal was talking about. Of course, it's a mess up over the years, which might also have to be, in a way, countered and handled. But do you think there's also this aspect of red tapeism and bureaucracy, which is, creating these kind of hurdles in terms of handling this power crisis situation?
See, the one of the major thing is, in addition to the coal parity, as he has been talking about, one of the major thing is the source of the revenue for everybody is the distribution company. Distribution company sets electricity, collects money, which passes it on to generator. From generator, it passes on to railways and coal. So the source of money is nobody else but DISCOM. Now the question is, does DISCOM have the ability to collect the money for electricity which they have sold? I'll give a quick example of only one state, that is Maharashtra, which I belong to. Typically, at the end of September, October, total outstanding was 64,000 crores. Out of 64,000 crores, 40,000 crore was the agricultural pumping. That means, agriculture, outstanding. As far as the second part of it was concerned, the municipal corporations, gram panchayats, etc., which the electricity is being given for water and the street light. Plus, add to that, the government offices such as maybe the PWD or collector's office or police commissioner's office plus hospital. Both that factors put together, it came to 10,000 crores. So 40,000 of agriculture plus 10,000 of this, making it a 50,000 crores out of 64,000 crores is recoverable. Now, other than the government, who can come in to pitch in for this money? So since the DISCOM does not have the money to pay, the crux of the issue, it doesn't pay to the generator. From generator, it doesn't go to coal. So what did happen in Maharashtra, as he has rightly said, some time back, about maybe 15 days back, our coal stocks were as low as 3 or 4 days. The reason was very simple. The largest state Genco was concerned, they did not have the money to pay to the Coal India. So if they come to 3-4 days, how they will generate, under what circumstances? So the crux of the issue is not the coal, it is not railways, it is not state Genco or IPPs or NTPC. The crux of the issue is the source of money, which is DISCOM. Unless and until DISCOMs are strengthened by coming out of this free power, then waivers, then not in a position to, keep on pleasing people and things like that, unless and until what they sell, they are not in a position to recover, this will not change. Rest of the people are in the total chain, and the जिसको उगम बोलते हैं, the source is distribution company.
For your first comments, I'm also joined by Mr. Harry Dhol, founder of Independent Power Producers Association. Mr. Dhol, if you could weigh in on this, Mr. Pense was talking about how discoms are constantly talking about how they don't have enough money coming in from the power retailers, which is why there's this issue in terms of demand and supply, which constantly seems to be rising. But this year around, considering the kind of heat wave situation we are looking at, the situation has become far more acute. But is there also some sort of disconnect between center and state which comes into play? Because there has also been this issue which, certain sources, specifically in the Maharashtra Discom, are telling us that state expects certain dues from or aid or certain dues specifically from the center, which does not come through to them on time, which is why there's a cascading impact which is felt. So is that also something that you've perceived?
Well, let's start off with some clarity. The government at the center has taken a very good step. They are actually garnering and asking and directing that all the resources that are available should be put to use immediately to meet the power cut situation. So that's step one. Now the question is, they've invoked Section 11, which is the only provision in the Electricity Act which deals with emergency situations. Now, Section 11 also has provisions where generating stations which are multi-state have to come under and do come under the tariff regulations of CERC. So therefore, that is step two. They have authority to give directions to these power stations which have got multi-state PPAs or arrangements in place. Now, the second thing is they've taken also another step where I think what they are getting to, and I'm reading the regulation or the order rather, they are basically saying that the REC and the PFC will fund either the generating stations or the discoms for this particular period till 31st October by giving special money or making special arrangements for money to be infused both to the generators and or the discoms for this purchase of power during the emergency period. I think this is a fantastic step. And not only that, they have gone ahead and said one more thing, that those power projects which have been taken into bankruptcy because the distribution companies haven't paid them, those power plants, the resolution professional who's the administrator of those power plants has also been directed to do the needful. So I think from the center's point of view, they've done as much as they could given the circumstances within the ambit of the existing law. Now, question is, what happens to that capacity which is either got an arrangement with the states and not multi-states, which doesn't come under the purview of CRC, or those guys who are not in a position even to garner enough money or have an IRP who's not exactly in line with the kind of situation that's happening place. There, I think what had been suggested earlier in your channel is very relevant, and that is the government of India should take a step where any power plant or any power company which is owed money by any distribution company and has not been paid should have a waiver for 3 years from NCLT proceedings. And the management should be reverted back, or the IRP should work with the management to make sure that the companies become and remain going concerns and start generating power immediately. And the last point I want to make is, while this is a great idea, getting imported coal has a lag time, maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months before the coal arrives. So I think what is the smartest thing to do is what they've done is to use the existing capacity and also direct the local coal availability to be also redirected to these plants. So I think it's a package deal which is, I think, very well thought out. It just needs proper implementation and monitoring, which I'm sure they will be doing.
Relevant points there, something to think about, especially as Mr. Haridhal said, that probably a step in the right direction, but there are still a lot of challenges, from different fronts, monetary, otherwise, in terms of the volumes which are needed vis-a-vis the demand which has risen, especially amid the punishing heat wave. Rajiv Agarwal, Ashok Pense and Haridhal, thank you so much for joining us in this discussion on this very important story we are tracking on Mirror now.